The night over Earth was calm. The cities glowed with bright towers, lights stretching across continents. Humanity had grown far beyond what the ancient world once knew. Their machines reached distant planets. Their colonies lived under foreign suns, and their voices traveled faster than thought itself. Yet Earth still remained the heart, the one world where it all began. On this night, people slept without fear. Children dreamed, scientists studied the stars, and soldiers guarded the skies as they always had. No one expected change. No one expected the silence of the sky to be broken. But change was already moving toward them, faster than light, deeper than memory. In the far dark of space, something stirred. It was not a comet nor a wandering stone. It was older than Earth's cities, older than human memory. It came with purpose. The first signals reached Earth's listening posts as strange waves. They were not like normal static, not like the voice of another civilization humanity had once met. These signals carried a pulse, a rhythm, as if something alive was breathing through the void. The scientists did not speak at first. They compared records, they checked old archives, and then one word began to spread through hidden channels, whispered only where ears were trusted. The word was return. For 500,000 years, old warnings had remained buried. They were spoken by humans who once knelt under another sky, when they were not yet rulers of their own world. Long ago, a race of powerful beings had walked across Earth. They ruled its lands, shaped its seas, and used humans as little more than shadows. Then they vanished, leaving behind ruins and myths. They promised one day they would return, and when they did, humans would kneel again. Now, across every hidden archive, across every military channel, leaders and scholars knew the truth. The silence of 500,000 years had ended. The ancient masters were back. Over the Pacific skies, strange clouds began to form. Radar stations detected objects that should not exist. They were vast, larger than any ship humans had built, their presence bending the air itself. People looked up from city streets and saw shapes blotting out the stars. Children pointed, thinking it was a storm. Old men whispered prayers. Soldiers stared at their instruments, cold sweat gathering on their brows. The ships were black like obsidian, their surfaces glowing faint red as if fire lived inside their walls. They moved in silence, without sound, without warning. Not even the thunder of engines came from them. They simply drifted through the clouds like mountains in the sky. Fear spread in whispers. Across the cities, families turned their faces upward. In temples and shrines, bells rang without reason. Some said it was the end of days. Others said it was only a test of fear. But those who held power did not show panic. Earth's commanders, the ones who had waited for this very day, gave no cry of alarm. Their faces were still, their eyes cold. They knew this moment would come. The alien fleet hovered above Earth like silent judges. They did not speak, not yet. They only showed themselves, confident that fear alone would bring humanity back to its knees, the same way it had worked 500,000 years ago. But the world they had returned to was no longer the same. Humanity had grown. Humanity had bled and struggled through ages of war, hunger, and fire. They had risen beyond chains, they had stepped into the stars. Still, the silence was heavy. Minutes passed like hours as the ships held their place in the sky. Streets grew empty. Windows closed. The sound of the world was swallowed by the weight of waiting. A single boy in a quiet village stood outside as the great shadow moved above. His eyes were wide, filled with wonder, not fear. He whispered to himself, words too soft for others to hear. They are back. Across the world, leaders gathered in hidden chambers. Maps lit up with signals, glowing red where the ships were seen. Generals spoke in low voices. Scientists repeated the warnings of the past. Yet none of them panicked. Their voices were steady. Their eyes told a truth no alien could see. Humanity had prepared. And so the first night of the return ended with silence. The aliens had come back, filling the skies with their presence, waiting for surrender. Humanity, however, waited too, watching with eyes that no longer belonged to slaves. The air above Earth was heavy, the stars hidden. Somewhere deep in the alien fleet, their leaders watched. They believed fear would be enough. They believed humans would bow once more. But far below, in hidden bases beneath oceans and mountains, doors began to open. Engines that had not stirred for decades came alive with thunder. Machines that had slept in silence lit their eyes of steel. Across the Earth, something far older than fear began to rise. Resolve. The silent sky was no longer empty. It had become the stage for a confrontation that waited 500,000 years. Humanity stood beneath it, calm, unshaken, and ready for what was coming. And the aliens, though they did not yet know it, were about to face something greater than their memory. They were about to face the new rulers of Earth. The alien fleet hung in the skies like a wall of shadow. Their red lights glowed against the night clouds, painting the world below with an unnatural glow. For the people of Earth, it was a sight they had never seen before. For the aliens, it was something they had long awaited. Inside the vast ships, their leaders gathered in chambers filled with strange light. Their bodies were tall and covered in dark armor-like skin, their faces hidden by masks of bone and metal. They had returned after 500,000 years to the world they once claimed as their own. To them, Earth was not a home of humans. It was their lost jewel, a place they believed had been waiting for their hands to control again. But they remembered a different Earth. They remembered a planet of tribes, caves, and weak beings crawling on the ground. They remembered humans who bowed when commanded, who built temples not for themselves but for their masters. To the aliens, humanity had been small, fragile, and unworthy of freedom. They left them behind as one leaves animals in a cage. Now, as their ships hovered, they looked down and saw something else. They saw towers of glass rising into the sky, cities stretching across the land, lights burning brighter than stars. They saw a world alive with machines, with aircraft, with voices moving across invisible waves. It was not the Earth they remembered. It was not the humans they once controlled. Confusion spread among the invaders. Their leaders tried to hide it, but whispers carried across the alien fleet. Some believed humanity had been given help by another empire. Others thought Earth was hiding ancient power it was never meant to touch. But a few, older and wiser, felt something colder. They began to suspect that humans had done this alone. On the surface of Earth, leaders watched carefully. The alien ships had not fired. They had not spoken. They were waiting, like hunters waiting for prey to surrender. Humanity understood this silence. It was not peace. It was pride. The aliens believed fear alone would bring Earth to its knees. Yet hidden deep beneath mountains and oceans, human eyes had already been trained for this day. Generals remembered the warnings passed down through generations. The ones who left will one day return. History books spoke of myths where gods commanded men, myths that were never myths at all. They were memories of chains, and now those memories came alive. The forgotten memory. In villages and cities, some people began to feel those ancient chains return in their blood. They looked at the ships above and felt small, as if the stories of their ancestors had awakened. Old fears were powerful. Children clung to their mothers, and old men whispered of the return of gods. But humanity was no longer the same. Fear was not their master anymore. The first voice of the aliens came at dawn. It echoed across the skies, not in sound but in every human mind. A language older than Earth itself filled the air. It was deep, commanding, and without emotion. "Bow," the voice said. "The time of waiting is over. The masters of Earth have returned." For a long moment, silence followed. The streets were still. The skies waited. The ships above moved closer, their lights burning stronger. Then came the reply. It did not come from fear or trembling voices. It came from Earth's leaders, broadcast across every channel, loud and unshaken. "You left us," the human commander said. "You thought we would remain in chains. You thought we would wait for you, but we did not wait. We survived, we built, we became more than you ever imagined." The words spread across the globe. People heard them in their homes, in their schools, in their fields. Soldiers heard them inside their bunkers, pilots inside their aircraft, engineers inside their machines. For the first time, humanity spoke not as tribes or nations, but as one. In the alien fleet, silence fell. Their leaders sat motionless. Their eyes glowed with cold fire, but inside them something shifted. Fear was a small seed, but it had been planted. On Earth, ordinary people lifted their heads. The weight of the forgotten memory was heavy, but it no longer bent their backs. Children pointed at the sky, not in fear, but in defiance. Old men who once prayed in silence now clenched their fists. Humanity remembered its chains, yes, but it also remembered its strength. The aliens had expected weak creatures waiting to kneel. Instead, they found a world that had risen from ashes, a world that now looked back at them with eyes unbroken. And so the first words had been spoken. The return of the ancient masters was no longer a secret. The confrontation between memory and reality had begun. The skies still belonged to the aliens, their ships heavy above the clouds. But the ground, the oceans, the hearts of billions, they belonged to humanity. And deep inside the alien fleet, where their general sat in cold silence, one question began to form, though none dared to speak it yet. What if we have returned not to rule but to face the end of our own pride? The first contact, the alien fleet did not move for hours. They hung in the sky like mountains of black metal, their glowing veins of red light pulsing slowly as if the ships themselves were alive. On the ground, life froze. Schools did not open. Markets stood silent. Even the birds no longer flew across the sky. Humanity waited, and the invaders waited too. Finally, one of the alien ships opened. From the center of its hull, a great circle of light unfolded, bright as a second sun. A figure appeared within that light, tall and cloaked in armor that shimmered with shifting symbols. Its face was hidden behind a mask of bone-white metal, its eyes glowing with pale fire. It was the speaker of the fleet, chosen to deliver the words of the ancient masters. The voice came again, not in sound, but in every human mind. This time it was clearer, sharper, carrying not only command but contempt. "Earth," the speaker said, "your guardians have returned. The time of waiting is ended. Bow before us as you once did. You belong to us." Cities trembled at the voice. Windows cracked, towers shook, oceans rose in small waves as the alien presence pressed down on the world. Across the globe, people felt the weight of the command. Their knees weakened. Their hearts raced. It was more than words, it was control. The same control their ancestors had once suffered under, but humanity was no longer bound. The answer came not in whispers this time, but in thunder. A single human voice amplified across every channel, cut through the command like steel through cloth. It came from Earth's Central Command, a hall buried deep beneath mountains where the world's leaders had gathered. "You call yourself our masters," the human commander said, his tone calm, cold, without fear. "But you are only shadows of a past we have overcome. You left us in chains. We broke them. You left us weak. We grew strong. And now you return expecting us to kneel? Look again." At those words, the skies changed. From oceans, vast doors opened and black shapes began to rise. Submerged warships, long hidden under the waves, lifted from the sea like giants waking from slumber. From mountains, tunnels cracked open, revealing fleets of aircraft with wings of steel and engines of fire. From hidden bases orbiting Earth, satellites turned their faces, glowing with the light of weapons never before revealed. The world answered as one. Humanity rose, the alien fleets shifted uneasily. Their sensors scanned the rising machines, their minds stretched across networks of thought. But what they saw unsettled them. These were not primitive weapons. The lines of steel, the power of engines, the precision of movement, everything was beyond what they remembered. Humanity had not only grown, it had become something new. The alien speaker's voice faltered for the first time. "You dare raise weapons against us? Against your rulers?" The human commander replied without pause. "We do not raise weapons against rulers. We raise them against invaders. And you are not rulers anymore." Silence spread again. The alien ships dimmed slightly, as if uncertain. Their leaders spoke among themselves, voices low and harsh. Some urged immediate destruction of Earth, to crush resistance quickly. Others counseled caution, warning that humanity might hold powers unseen. Pride wrestled with fear inside their chambers, while outside, the fleet stared at one another across the dark sky. Then, the first strike came. One alien cruiser, vast and armed with weapons that burned suns into storms, moved closer to the Earth's surface. Its hull glowed with red fire, and in an instant a beam of energy cut across the Pacific, striking an empty island and turning it into ash. The blast lit the night like a second dawn, the shockwave traveling for hundreds of miles. It was not an attack of war, it was a warning. The speaker's voice thundered again. "This is the power you face. One more step of defiance and we will erase your world." For a moment fear returned. People cried out, thinking the end had come. But then another voice filled the air. Not alien this time, but human. It came from the sky itself. "Enough," said the voice of a pilot. Above the Pacific, a single black warship rose into view. It was unlike the alien ships, smaller, sharper, built not with flowing lines but with hard edges, built for war, not for ceremony. Its engines glowed blue, cutting the clouds apart as it rose. The name on its side was simple: Vanguard. Before the alien fleet could react, the Vanguard moved. In seconds, it fired a single beam of light, not wide, not burning, but focused and sharp. The beam struck the alien cruiser that had fired on Earth. The alien ship shuddered, its red lights flickered, and then silence. The great vessel cracked apart like stone split by fire, its pieces falling into the ocean with a roar that shook the seas. The world gasped. The aliens froze. For the first time in 500,000 years, the masters felt the edge of fear. The speaker staggered, its glowing eyes narrowing. Its voice no longer carried pride, but something darker, something uncertain. "This is not possible." The human commander's reply was quiet, almost gentle, but it struck harder than any weapon. "You should not have left us alone." The broken pride, the sea boiled where the alien cruiser had fallen. Columns of steam rose into the air as burning fragments sank beneath the waves. For a long moment, the world stood still, watching the impossible. The invincible had been destroyed, not by another ancient empire, not by gods, but by humans. In the alien fleet, silence turned into chaos. Thousands of voices spoke at once, their minds linked through their strange network. Commands clashed with fear. Pride battled with doubt. The masters who had once been worshipped like deities now faced something they could not understand. Their leader, still cloaked in white armor, slammed his clawed hand against the chamber wall. His eyes glowed brighter as he forced order back into their minds. "It was one ship," he said coldly. "Do not forget who we are. Do not forget what they are. Weak creatures wearing stolen steel. They cannot challenge us," but deep inside he felt the crack. He remembered Earth of the past, tribes crawling in dirt, bowing to voices like his. Now he saw towers of glass, fleets of iron, weapons that could cut through their shields. It was no longer the same world. The humans, on the other hand, did not cheer. They did not shout in victory. They remained silent, their ships hovering in calm formation, their commanders watching with eyes of steel. That silence was louder than any roar. It told the aliens something more terrifying than the destruction of their cruiser. This was not chance. Humanity was ready. Humanity had prepared for this day. Across Earth's hidden bases, machines continued to wake. Subterranean hangars opened, releasing more warships into the sky. Massive engines lifted from deserts and oceans, casting shadows that stretched for miles. In orbit, satellites unfolded, revealing weapons long disguised as simple machines. Every continent answered. Every colony beyond Earth sent signals of readiness. The human race had risen as one without hesitation. The alien fleets felt the shift. They had expected fear, surrender, cries for mercy. Instead, they saw defiance written across the entire planet. Billions of eyes looked up, not with worship, but with steady resolve. The memory of chains had not broken humanity. It had forged them. In a desperate attempt to restore their pride, the alien leader gave a command. "Strike again. Show them who rules the stars." 5 cruisers broke formation, their weapons glowing with molten red. They aimed at different points of Earth. One at a desert, one at a frozen wasteland, one at the deep ocean, one at a distant island, and one directly above a great city. It was not war. It was punishment. A display meant to remind humans of their place. But the humans were already moving. Before the alien beams could fire, black warships rose into their paths. They were smaller than the alien cruisers, but they moved with speed and precision that the invaders had never seen. Each ship locked onto its target, releasing bursts of blue fire that split the air like lightning. One cruiser exploded in the clouds, torn apart before its weapon could ignite. Another was sliced through the center, its burning fragments falling harmlessly into the ocean. A third was struck with pinpoint precision, its power core collapsing in on itself. The fourth tried to retreat, but a pair of human fighters cut across its hull, leaving it broken and silent. Only the 5th cruiser survived long enough to fire. Its beam roared downward toward the great city below, but instead of striking, it met a shield, a glowing barrier that spread across the city like a dome of light. The beam shattered against it, scattering into harmless sparks. When the light cleared, the city still stood untouched. The world exhaled. Humanity had revealed yet another secret. The alien fleet recoiled. For the first time in countless ages, they had attacked and failed. Their pride cracked further, the cracks spreading into fear. They whispered among themselves, their voices trembling in the shared network. "How did they build this?" one asked. "What power hides in their machines?" Another muttered, "They were nothing when we left them. A third whispered, almost in disbelief. The leader silenced them with a sharp growl. Do not fear. They are only imitators. They cannot stand against us all. But even as he spoke, doubt gnawed at his mind. The humans' weapons were not imitations. They were something different. Something born of struggle, pain, and survival. On Earth, the human commander gave no speeches. He simply watched, his eyes steady, his voice calm as he spoke to his people. They are testing us. We will not break. We will not kneel. This is not their world anymore. It is ours. The word spread again, carried to every home, every ship, every heart. Across the world, people stood taller. Children looked at the sky, not in fear, but in pride. The old memory of chains was no longer a weight, it was fuel. Humanity was not only defending itself, it was showing the universe who they had become. The aliens felt the shift as well. Their control had slipped. Their pride, once unshakable, now cracked. And through those cracks, fear began to bloom. Above the burning seas and glowing cities, the two sides stared at each other. The aliens, once masters, were no longer certain of victory. The humans, once slaves, no longer remembered how to kneel. The broken pride of the invaders echoed through the silence. And in that silence, a question hung heavy in the air. If this is what humanity has become after 500,000 years, what will they become tomorrow? The sky above Earth burned with the wreckage of fallen ships. The seas glowed with fire where alien cruisers had crashed. Across every continent, people watched in silence. Humanity had not been destroyed. Humanity had not surrendered. Humanity had stood unshaken. Inside the alien fleet, the silence was heavier than steel. Their leaders stared at the glowing screens, watching human warships move with precision, watching their weapons cut through defenses that had once ruled galaxies. For the first time, his hands trembled. They are not the same, he whispered. They are not what we left behind. His words spread through the network of minds. Every alien in the fleet felt them, though none dared to admit it aloud. Fear had reached them, slow but unstoppable, wrapping around their pride like chains they could not break. Below, the humans did not rush. They did not shout in victory. Their ships circled the alien fleet in silence, their weapons glowing but still. The humans were waiting, patient, calm, as if they held time itself in their hands. On the ground, the commander spoke once more, his voice steady and quiet, yet it carried across every channel, reaching even the ears of the invaders. You said we belong to you. You said you are our masters. But you left us. You abandoned us. And in your absence, we learned to survive. We learned to grow. We became more than you ever imagined. You had 500,000 years to prepare for this day. So did we. The word struck harder than any weapon. In the alien fleet, their soldiers felt their pride wither. The humans did not sound like prey. They did not sound like rebels. They sounded like rulers. The alien leader tried to summon his pride one last time. We are the masters of worlds, he thundered. We will not flee from slaves. But even as he spoke, his fleet betrayed him. Ships drifted backward, their commanders unwilling to face more destruction. Their minds whispered in the network, trembling with unspoken fear. The memory of their cruiser torn apart in seconds was still too fresh, too sharp. Then the humans moved. The Vanguard rose higher, its dark hull glowing blue, its weapons locked onto the alien flagship. One by one, every human warship turned its aim toward the heart of the invaders. The sky filled with silent threats, 1,000 blades of light ready to strike. The alien leader felt his chest tighten. He could hear the voices of his commanders pleading through the network. We must retreat. We cannot win. They are no longer ours. For the first time in their long history, the masters felt what they had once forced upon others. They felt the taste of fear. The human commander gave no order to fire. He gave no signal of attack. He simply stood in silence, letting the weight of humanity's power speak for itself. That silence was worse than any weapon. It told the invaders that the humans did not see them as a threat. They saw them as broken. At last, the alien fleet began to retreat. One by one, the massive ships turned, their red lights dimming as they vanished into the clouds, then into the dark beyond Earth's orbit. Their voices fell silent. Their pride collapsed. Their return had ended not with conquest, but with shame. On the ground, people filled the streets. They looked up at the stars with new eyes. The fear that had shaken them only hours ago was gone, replaced with something greater: pride. For the first time, humanity had not only defended itself, but had made the old masters afraid. The commander of Earth stood at his post, his face calm, his eyes steady. He did not smile, he did not cheer. He only watched the sky until the last shadow of the alien fleet disappeared into the void. Then he spoke the words that would be remembered for generations. They thought we were weak. They thought we would kneel. But humanity does not kneel, not anymore. The words spread across the world, etched into history, carried into every heart. Humanity had not just survived, they had declared their place in the universe. And somewhere in the darkness of space, the aliens fled with their broken pride. They carried with them a memory they would never escape. The image of a world once enslaved, now powerful beyond belief. A world that had stared into their eyes without fear. They had returned after 500,000 years, expecting worship, expecting obedience, expecting chains. Instead, they left carrying fear, the fear they never expected. The stars were quiet again. The silent sky had returned. But humanity knew the silence would not last forever. Others would come. Others would test them. And when they did, they too would learn what the ancient masters had learned this day. Humanity was no longer prey. Humanity was the storm.